Hello, mathematicians. Today we are going to be comparing and ordering numbers. So make sure that you have your materials ready, your math journal, and your pencil. If you need to pause this video and go get your materials, please do so now. And you'll notice that my math journal is set up and ready to go. We're going to be utilizing our place value chart strategy again today to compare and order numbers. So you can go ahead and set up your place value charts like I have. All right, well, let's take a look at today's learning goals. Today, it says I can compare numbers up to 100,000 using greater than, less than, and equal to symbols. And we are also going to be ordering numbers up to 100,000. So we are going to use what we have learned about the value of numbers to help us when comparing and ordering. So what does it mean to compare? When we compare numbers, we're going to be looking at two or more numbers to decide which one is greater, which one is less, or maybe are they of equal values. And there are symbols that we can use. Here is the greater than symbol. It reminds me of an alligator mouth. I like thinking of it that way because alligators are very hungry, and so the alligator would open its mouth and want to eat the number with the largest value. Here's our less than sign and our equal to sign. Equal to means the numbers have equal or the same value. When we compare numbers, we want to use our place value charts like we have ready in our journal. Our strategy is to begin by placing each number on the place value chart, and we just stack our numbers on top of each other, lining up the digits in the correct places. Then we start with the place that has the greatest value. So if we look at the two numbers that I am comparing today, the place that has the digits with the greatest value would be the 10,000ths place. So that's where I would start. And so I would first look at the numbers that are in that 10,000ths place. I have a digit 4 and a digit 6. Well, those are different digits with different values. So which is greater, a 4 or a 6? And remember, this is 40,000 and 60,000 because they're in the 10,000ths place. Who would be greater, 40,000 or 60,000? Well, definitely 60,000. 60,000. So I have circled that digit and I don't need to compare anymore. I'm already done. So I can go ahead and write out my comparison statement. The first number, 43,193 is less than 61,629. I can see my greater than symbol. My alligator is eating the number with the largest value, 61,629, because 40,000 is less than 60,000. But what happens if we have digits that are equal at the greatest starting value in our number? Here I have two new numbers. I have placed them, stacked them on my place value chart. And then I start with the place that has the greatest value, which is the 10,000ths place for these numbers. But what do you notice here? They are equal. Both are 70,000. So I have to go next door to the right to the next greatest place. That would be the thousands place for these numbers. Then I compare these values. We have a 3,000, 3 in the thousand, and a 1,000, because 1 in the thousands. Which is greater, 3,000 or 1,000? Well, 3,000, very nice. 3,000 is greater than 1,000, so I circled that greater digit to let me know that this is the greatest number. So now I'm going to write my numbers into my comparison statement. 73,583 is greater than 71,264 because 3,000 is greater than 1,000. All right, now that we know our strategy for comparing numbers, let's get started. Here's our first question. Which shows a comparison that is not true? Ooh, does something stand out to you in this question? What do you notice about what the question is asking us? Did you too see that word not? I did. It jumped out at me. Not true. What do you think that means? Not true. Oh, so we were going to be looking for the comparison statement that is wrong. So when I see not true, I'm actually wanting the wrong answer, which is different because normally we always want the correct answer, but this time I want the wrong answer. That's interesting. Okay, let's get comparing. We're going to use our place value chart and we are going to be placing our numbers here. And so looking here at these two numbers, we need to place them on our place value chart. We have 54,127. And then I'm going to stack the next number, 54,127. Well, we start comparing in the place that has the greatest value. So I see a 5 and a 5. I got to go next door. A 4,000, a 4,000. Go next door. 100 and 100. Goodness, go next door again. 20 and 20. Go next door. 7 ones, 7 ones. What does that mean? That means that these numbers are equal. 54,127 is equal to 54,127. And that is what this statement says. But remember, go back to our question. We want one that is not true. This is true. So do we want this one? Nope, we don't. Bye-bye A. We don't want that one. Okay, let's look at B. Let's place these numbers on our place value chart. Remember, we just stack them in the place. So we have 26,894. And our next number, 24,663. Okay, once we have our numbers in the correct places and they are stacked, let's start comparing. Where do we start comparing? The greatest place. So that's the 10,000s place for these numbers. So here we see a 20,000 and a 20,000. What do we do if these values are the same? Go next door. Okay. Here I have a 6,000 and a 4,000. Those values are different. Which is greater, a 6,000 or a 4,000? 6,000. So I'm going to circle the greater. So that tells me that this number on top is greater than the number on bottom. So I'm going to write out my comparison statement. 26,894 is greater than 24,663. All right, so let's take a look at the answer choice. Very interesting. It has 26,894 is less than 24,663. Is that what we determined? No, it's not. So is this one not true? And is that what we wanted? Ooh, so we kind of like B. So B is a maybe. But remember, a good mathematician, we always check all the answer choices. So now let's go to C, place our numbers on our chart. 45,670. 45,398. Okay. Oops, sorry, you can't see that, can you? There we go, scoot him over. Okay, so we start in our place that has the greatest value, which for these numbers, 10,000s. We got a 40,000 and a 40,000. Go next door. 5,000 and a 5,000. Go next door. 600 and a 300. Those are different. Who is greater, 600 or 300? You know, yep, 600 is greater. So I'm going to circle to tell me that this number is the greater number. So I'm going to write my comparison statement in the order that the numbers are in. So 45,670 is greater than 45,398. Let's look at our answer choice. Is that the same as what we got? It is. And do we want that or do we want what's wrong? Yep, we want what's wrong, so can't take C. And then last, put it on our chart, 59,304 and 56,199. Okay, let's compare. Our 10,000s are the same. Go next door. I have a 9,000 and a 6,000. Those are different. Who is greater? 9 is greater. So that makes this number the greater number. So let's write our comparison statement. Remember, you write it in the order of the numbers you were given. So 59,304. And we said he was greater than 56,199. Does that match? It does. And so we don't want that because we want what's wrong. And so B is the correct answer. Good job answering a tricky question. And look at all of our work we have, all of our thinking. Very impressive. All right. So now it is going to be your turn. At the end of the video, you will answer this question, which shows a comparison number sentence that is true. Remember to check out your strategy, draw your place value chart, stack your numbers, and compare each value starting with the greatest value. And then for this question, you can use little checks and little X's to determine which comparison symbols are correct and which are wrong. All right. Well, now let's move on to our next piece of our lesson, ordering numbers. When we order numbers, we're using place value to place a set of numbers in order either from greatest to least, which is biggest or the largest value number, to the smallest value number, or least to greatest, flip-flopping that. The number that has the smallest value to the number that has the biggest value. So now let's take a look at what our strategy is. Well, it's still place value chart. Our place value chart is so helpful, can help us do so many things with numbers. It can help us order numbers. So this time on our place value chart, we're going to be stacking all the numbers that we're given in a list, and then we're going to be comparing their values starting at the place with the greatest value. So here I was given these three numbers up here at the top. So I placed those numbers onto my place value chart. Then I started with the place with the greatest value, which for this number is the 10,000s place. And I started comparing my values. I had a 20,000, a 30,000, and another 20,000. Well, 30,000 is greater than the 20,000s, so I circled that. And now I know that this number is going to be first in my list because we're doing greatest to least. I want the greatest number. This is the greatest number. So I'm going to put him first in my list. Now, both of these have a 20,000. So I need to go next door. Well, both of these have an 8,000. This one has an 8,000. This one has an 8,000. So I have to go next door again. So I'm going to go next door to the hundreds place. Now I have different values. This top number has a 500 and the bottom number has an 800. Well, 800 is greater than 500, so I'm going to circle the 800 to show that this number is going to go second in my list because it's the second greatest. So he goes second in my list. And so that means that this number is the least. So he goes third in the list. Third. And so now I've ordered my numbers from greatest to least in value. Now that we have a strategy, let's give it a try. I'm going to turn my page because I'm going to need a new page for a new place value chart. Okay. Just setting up a new page. You can set you up a new page if you need one as well. Make a nice long place value chart since I've got 3 numbers I'm going to put on it. All right, ready to go. Here it says a table with the areas of 3 states is shown. Which list represents the areas of the states ordered from least to greatest? That is important. I need to make sure I remember that. I'm doing least to greatest. So let's stop and think about what does that mean for a moment. Least to greatest. Least, I want the smallest value number. Greatest, I want it to end with the largest value number. All right, let's look at our table here. Here's my numbers. My strategy is place each number on the place value chart, so let's do that. And be careful, I notice that not all of them have a number in the 10,000, so I need to be careful. This one starts in the thousands, so that would be right here. So 2,489. My next number, 2,034. And my last number, it has a 10,000. So 12,407. Okay, I've placed all of my numbers and I'm going to order on my place value chart. So now I do my first step. I start with the greatest value. Well, my greatest value digit is in the 10,000s place, so that's where I'm going to get started right there. Well, I have a 10,000 and a 0,000, 10,000, so nothing. So what do you think? Well, definitely that one would go next, right? He would be my greatest value for sure. So I'm going to label him. Well, he's not going to be my first place, is he? Remember, look at our directions. Least to greatest. So if he's the greatest, what place would he be in? Last place this time. He's coming in last place, so I'm going to give him third place. Okay, because remember, least is going to go first in this list. Okay, now we've got that number taken care of. We know he's going to be in third place. Let's see if we can figure out first place and second place. All right, remember our first place is going to be least. Well, looking here, we've got a 2,000 and a 2,000. Well, that's not going to help us much. Those are the same value, so we need to go next door to the hundreds place. Here we have a 400 and 0 hundreds. Ooh, 400 and 0 hundreds. Who's greater? Well, 400 is greater. And where do I want the next greatest number if we're doing it from least to greatest? He's going to be in second place. And then now we know our least number that's going to be in first place is 2,034. So now we've put them in order, so let's list them. First place, my least number is going to be 2,034. Then in my list, the next smallest would be 2,489. And then the greatest number would be 12,407. So there's my list of numbers. So now that I know, let's switch now to little checks and little X's and process through our answer choices. A starts with Delaware as the least number. Delaware was 2,489. Does that match ours? You know what we could do? We could help ourselves out a little bit by labeling. We could say RI for Rhode Island was our least number. Then Delaware, we could label it a D. And then Maryland was the greatest. So that's the order that we wanted in. All right, so was Delaware our least number in first place? Nope. So X, so A is not going to work for us. Let's look at B. B has Maryland as the least number. Ooh, Maryland's the greatest number. He should be last in the list. So nope for B. C has Rhode Island first. So did we. That was the least value. Then Delaware. So did we. And Maryland. Ooh, think we may have found one from least to greatest, but let's check out D just in case. D starts with Maryland. No, Maryland's supposed to be last in the list because it's the greatest. So yay, we figured out the order least to greatest. C is our answer. Awesome job, mathematicians. All right, after this video, you are going to answer your You Try questions. Here is your You Try question for ordering numbers. A table with populations of 4 towns is shown. Which list shows the populations of these towns ordered from greatest to least? Pay attention to your directions. And remember, use your place value chart just like we did for the last question. All right, mathematicians, thank you for learning with me today. See you next time.